Okay, I'd like to go ahead and open up our presentation, and a very good morning to everybody out there. My name is Jason Goldfield, and I am the Assistive Technology Instructor at the Florida Outreach Center for the Blind here in West Palm Beach, Florida, for those that are not familiar with our facility. I am your facilitator today, and I am also joined by Manis Pesias, who is our bookkeeper at the Florida Outreach Center, and he is our host. We only have a few people with us currently, and I'd just like to, and that's okay. I'd just like to kind of go over some housekeeping rules before we do get into our presentation today, which is on the subject of white cane and the white cane safety law. As you all know, that you are all muted when you came into this meeting. We kindly ask for the respect of others that you stay muted during our presentation. We will have time for questions and answers at the end of our presentation, and we will allow, of course, you to speak at that point, and we will go through the process of how we're going to handle our questions and answers through the method of raising hands with Zoom. We'll go over all those instructions at that time. So we ask you just to sit back and relax and enjoy our presentation in the meanwhile. Also, for the benefit of those who joined us recently, for those who didn't hear it the first time, we will be giving out a $25 gift card that will be given out to one lucky winner at the conclusion of our presentation today. And you must be present to win. So if you would like to be in our lucky drawing at the end of our presentation, please stick with us for the entire meeting today. So with that being said, that's pretty much all of our housekeeping rules. As I mentioned today, our subject that we're going to be discussing is on the topic of the white cane and white cane law. Most of you are already familiar with the month of October, which is the White Cane Safety Law. It's also Disability Awareness Month, and so on. So this month of October has many, many variations in there. And it's basically to raise awareness and for those who are blind and visually impaired, using canes, guide dogs, or people with disabilities as well. Today, we're going to be doing our presentation in a slightly different format. Usually, I do a lot of the talking, or we have a guest speaker who comes in and does our meetings live. However, this presentation will be done a little bit differently, somewhat, that we're going to be playing a series of videos and one interview that was previously recorded. Ted Goodenough, who is the Assistant ADA Coordinator for the city of Boynton Beach, Florida, he is visually impaired. He was a cane user and now currently has a guide dog. He was kindly enough to sit down with me and give a presentation on himself and his job and whatnot. Unfortunately, he could not be with us live due to other obligations. However, we did record this meeting over Zoom, this interview over Zoom, which we'll be playing. I also have a series of other videos that we'll be playing that are a few minutes each in length. One of them being a white cane PSA done by the National Federation for the Blind. I also have two other videos, and they're a couple minutes each, so nothing too long, of basically how to assist a visually impaired person who uses a white cane. And that's primarily the focus of today's discussion. Last month, we did it primarily on the function of purpose of guide dogs. And this month, we're going to be focusing on the white cane. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump right into our first pre-recorded clip. And I'd like to go ahead and play the recording that was done yesterday evening with Mr. Ted Goodenough. It's approximately 25, maybe 30 minutes. And he goes into a whole bunch of different avenues as far as his job and his experiences. And I'll let him pretty much do the talking. I did ask him some questions, and he was kindly and gracious enough to answer them for me. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all so you can hear my audio. Now, all these are done in audio format. In fact, one of the videos that I'm going to play for you all today actually has audio description, which is really cool. And I got those all off of YouTube. So YouTube is a great place to find tons of videos on this very same subject. So I'm going to go ahead and start the screen sharing process. You will probably hear my jaws speak a little bit when I start the sharing of audio. I apologize for that. I don't have fancy equipment to mute that out as I load the video, but it will be minimal. So bear with me for just 1 minute. We have someone else joining us. So bear with me for 1 minute while I start the screen sharing process, and we'll load the video in about 1 minute. So bear with me here. This is something that while I've done many Zoom meetings, I don't share my screen too often, especially with audio. So bear with me for 1 second, folks.
Desktop ZP.
All right, so you should all be hearing my jaws yakking.
Zoom. Workshop FOCB.
All right, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and play the video in 3, 2, 1.
Enter. Movies and TV pop-up.
Okay, we are pleased to have with us today Mr. Ted Goodenough, and he has come to speak to us on the subject of white canes and the white cane law. So Ted, take it away.
Thank you very much, Jason. My name again is Ted Goodenough. I am the Americans with Disabilities Act Coordinator Assistant in the City Manager's Office of Accessibility for the Inclusive City of Boynton Beach. And I'm pretty sure that takes up all my time, but I'm going to keep talking anyway. So I did the white cane law. Florida has a very strict one. It's Florida statute 516 and 518 that define it. It is if you don't yield the right of way to a person with a guide dog or a white cane who's trying to cross the street anywhere, it does not have to be at an intersection. You could be fined up to $250, 3 ticks on your license, and here's the real kicker: 100 hours of community service at an organization that assists the blind. So that's your wallet that I just talked about, because that's a lot of stuff. But here's the thing: if I walk up, I'm blind, I use a guide dog. I have spent many years with a white cane, and I have one that I'll show you in a minute. But if I walk up to a curb and there's a guy on my right with one of those leaf blowers and a guy on my left with one of those weed whackers and a guy behind me mowing the lawn on a tractor, I cannot hear your car coming up, especially if it's electric or a hybrid. So it's important and the right thing to do to yield the right of way for people who are using a white cane or a guide dog. So I have my white cane right here, and it is 4 sections. The top part is a golf club type grip, and it has 2 white sections and then a red one. And at the end, I have a 2-inch rolling ball that is a little bit worn out. It's probably only an inch and a half now, but white canes come with all kinds of different tips. There are some that are just a nylon tip that you tap back and forth. I use a rolling ball because I can roll it, and then I know from the texture of the land if there's anything uneven, because it kind of bounces up and down. But it's important that people understand that this is not just the right thing to do, it's also the law. And with my position in Boynton Beach, one of the things that I do is train the law. I train people about service animals. Today, I actually went with a friend of mine who also has a guide dog, and we went down to a school in Boca, and we taught 4 and 5-year-olds about guide dogs and vision loss and blindness. And we had a blast. The kids were attentive. They were, they had a lot of questions. It was a really, really good time. But in the city where I work, Boynton Beach, where we pride ourselves in being inclusive, my job is to go to each department and teach them about not just service animals, but all of the Americans with Disabilities Act. For example, to use people first language. I'm not a blind person, I'm a person who is blind. And I know that sounds silly sometimes, but that's the key to making the person the important part and not the disability the important part. And it works very well. So I also work with a compadre at work, a colleague. She is deaf, so she has a laptop that does speech to text, and so anything I say goes onto there, and then we can get a virtual interpreter who will tell me what she's saying. So there's so many parts to the life of people who are disabled that most people just don't realize. And so if I can enlighten you in this little audio presentation to, oh wait, think about it, then maybe life will change a little bit for those with disabilities. Let's see. And I'm really here to talk about white canes and that type of safety, but you really have to realize you have to take the time to think. I've had a couple of interesting experiences. I was walking to the subway in Braintree, Massachusetts, and a person was texting on his phone, so distracted walking. He kicked my cane out of my hand and down a ravine of 50 feet. The other side of the ravine was swamp. So it's gone. There is no coming back. And he just walked on saying, "Oh, sorry." And then I had another person during my college days who was late for class. There were two people in front of her who were walking slowly, and I was coming down with my cane, and she tried to jump over it, broke it. And she asked me if I wanted some duct tape to fix it. I said, "No, I want the $40 that you just spent for me, because now I have to get a new one." It's not something that you can just walk away from. You have to now, my opinion, if you do something like that, you need to help the person whose cane you just got rid of to get where they're going, which is not easy. Fortunately, I knew my way to where I was going in both cases, and I was able to get there on my own. But you're taking away a tool that I use to be independent when you make those kind of mistakes. So I'm not sure how much clearer I can make it. And it's not about the $40. It's about, wait, if I didn't know where I was or where I was going, you just took away the tool that gets me there safely. And I don't have to worry about the traffic. The sidewalk is going to be told to me by the cane, "Oh, wait, I don't have my cane anymore because one was broken, one was kicked down a ravine." It's, I guess the best word is distressing or disappointing that people don't pay enough attention to their surroundings and what they're doing, and have the wherewithal to say, "Oh, this injured this person, and not my body, but my ability to be independent." And that's what a white cane or a guide dog does. I have a guide dog now. I don't use my white cane. I use it actually to go out and find the trash buckets, because I can whack around and find them, and then I bring them back in. But it's, again, it's the law. You need to respect the law when you're driving a car, especially because you don't want to get caught and end up with missing $250, getting 3 ticks on your license, and having to serve for a community service in an organization that deals with the blind and visually impaired. So, Jason, do you have any questions for me?
Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about how your job ties into our current subject, and
Okay.
how that's all related.
Sounds great. I am the event coordinator for the guide dog handlers of the Palm Beaches. My dog just got on my bed, and we went to a park in Boynton Beach, and the ranger came over and said, "Did you guys rent this?" And I said, "I did." And she said, "Well, are these service animals?" Which is the right question. That's the first question you should ask. is, are these service animals? And the second question that you can ask is, uh, um, what uh, what are they trained to do? And I just said, well, all of the people who have a dog here are blind, so their dogs are trained to guide them. And but she wanted to get rid of us, so she asked, "Oh, can you come and train the park rangers about service animals and white canes?" I said, "Absolutely," and it's in the works. I'm going to go out and train them. I have trained several other departments in the company about guide dogs and white canes and how they should react and act around them. So it's my position in Boynton Beach is really just, I feel like I'm changing lives. So what else you got, Jason?
Well, do you have any more information on the Florida statutes that you spoke of? I believe there were two of them.
Yep.
Do you have any information about that you can speak about?
516 and 518. 516 tells drivers that they are required to give the right of way to a person with a guide dog or a white cane, and they need to yield that right of way, even if it's not at an intersection. No matter where you are on the street, if a person extends their white cane and faces the street, you are required to stop and give the right of way. And it's kind of weird because if you're in a silent car, we have no way of knowing that you even pulled up. So you got, a couple little quiet taps, beep, beep. And then we have to get past you because I don't know of any single or double lane roads. They're all, even, I live in a community and the main road in and out is 4 lanes. So we have to be careful when we're trying to cross it. And 518 really talks about the fines. And I believe in Palm Beach County, it's not $250. I believe they do $200 for your first offense, still 3 ticks on your license, and still up to 100 hours of community service. And, so you could go, and if you get caught, you can go to the Florida Outreach Center for the Blind and do your service there. And I'm sure that the people there would be glad to have you, glad to help you to learn. Oh, wait, these are not, yes, we have a disability, we're blind, but we're not out of the community of people who can make a difference.
Okay. You had mentioned that before getting your guide dog, and is your guide dog now your first dog?
She is. She's my first dog. I've had her for a little over 6 years, 6.5 actually. She's 8 years old. She's a boxer. And one of the hardest things to deal with is she's so darn cute that people always want to come up and pet her and meet her. And that just distracts her. And people ask you, what's the dog's name? I tell them Beowulf. Her real name is Rosie. but I tell them Beowulf because when she sees them next time and they go, "Oh, hey, Beowulf! Oh my gosh, it's you again!" She won't pay attention and she will not be distracted. But when you touch a guide dog, it's extremely distracting to them. They want to, oh, do I get to meet you? I get to, no, you get to guide me through Publix. That's what your job is right now. Or you get to guide me down the street. And it's it's different when you have an animal, and guide dogs and miniature horses are the only service animals that people can have. No penguins, no um, mice, no anything. It's just miniature horses and dogs that can be service animals. And we, it's tough when we're on.
Coming phone call +1 507 United States.
Sorry. It's tough when somebody comes up, and I've had an experience where a person, I was walking up to a curb to cross the street, and a person pulled their SUV in front of me so that I couldn't go, got out, came around and said, "I know I'm not supposed to
Phone
touch
plus
this
one.
dog,
One
but I'm
notification.
going
Phone
to anyway."
now +1
Like, no,
507
no,
522
no, you're not.
0112.
Sorry, my phone was going off. So it's very important that you ignore a guide dog, and you can usually tell that they're a service animal if they have a harness. In most cases with guide dogs, it's a leather harness with two white poles that go up to a handle, generally leather. And if you see that, just go away. Don't talk to the dog because it will be distracted. And if it tries to meet you or you try to meet it, dogs can smell you at 70 feet. So if they get a good whiff of you, then the next time you're within 70 feet, they're going to know you're there. And I was actually in a funeral line, and it was for my mother-in-law, and I had my dog down stay, and some of my friends came in, and she got up and went, what, there's people I know, because when she's out of harness, I let her meet people who are my friends, but when she's in harness, just ignore the dog.
Okay. You had mentioned, so since Rosie's your first guide dog, how long were you a cane user?
I learned white cane use when I was 18. I got Rosie in 2015. So I was a white cane user for 45, 50 years, 50 years.
Wow, 50 years. So in that 50 years, do you have any pros or cons that you can talk about to everybody listening about the use of a white cane? You know, what you felt there was an advantage of or a disadvantage of?
Well, I think when people are respectful of a white cane and they see it and they pay attention to it, they move over because they know you don't see them, and you can go. But it's also I did a lot of it in Massachusetts. My growing up with a white cane, but trailing places, So if you know there's a sidewalk or a path that has a curb, you can trail along there and you can use that to help you. And then stairs. Stairs are a big thing with a white cane. If your cane drops, you know there's stairs there. And if you didn't have a white cane, you'd be on your face. And that's, I don't know if every blind person is afraid of ledges, but I I certainly am. I don't like ledges. I'm not afraid of the fall. I'm afraid of the landing because it's gonna hurt. So a white cane gives you the ability to know, oh wait, here's a set of stairs. And in Florida, I know there's not a whole lot of stairs, but
Incoming phone call. Home trend.
stop.
Remind me. Remind.
In Massachusetts, there are stairs everywhere because there's hills everywhere. So it really was convenient for me to have a white cane so that I didn't trip down the stairs.
Right. You had mentioned you were talking about your cane in the beginning of your talk, and you had mentioned about the different sections. So I assume that's a foldable or collapsible cane.
Yes, it folds into 4 separate pieces, and I believe most of them do. Although I know that there's one organization that will send you a free cane that is not collapsible and is very long, and they don't send out collapsible canes because they want everybody to be aware that you have one. So I was in college when I got mine from that organization, and I, it was like, no, okay, I understand it's free, but it doesn't have a nice golf club type handle, and it's stiff and long, and where are you going to put it when you go into a classroom? By your side, on the floor? Oh, and then somebody can roll over it. So I wholeheartedly believe in canes that have sections so that you can fold it up. And in fact, I had a friend, his name was David, and he always had his one cane, and then he had another one. And because if you lose it, that's a lesson I learned when they kicked mine down the ravine. But he had one, and he could fold it up and put it in his backpack so that it wasn't in the way, but he knew he had a reserve.
Right. And the organization that you're talking about that gives out the free white canes is the National Federation for the Blind. So they do have that program available. Can you talk?
I didn't want to mention them.
Oh no, that's okay. No, we'd like to mention that. So we want people out here to know, for the purpose of this workshop today, that you'll be able to contact the National Federation for the Blind National Office and receive a free white cane. So,
Yeah, and you'll get it within 2 weeks.
yeah. And speaking of giving out white canes, that kind of leads me to my next question. And something that I know it's very important. This is something that I learned when I was really young was, and it's extremely important when you are visually impaired and you learning how to get around with a white cane, you must receive orientation and mobility instruction from a certified O&M orientation mobility instructor. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your experience, if you remember that, and kind of
Yeah,
what you went through?
that was many years ago. But yeah, they actually made me wear a blindfold, the person that I had, and we walked around the streets of a town called Pembroke, Mass. And we did some buildings, and he said, trail this wall, do this, make sure that, you know, you start with your cane, because I'm right-handed, start with your cane on your, in front of your left foot. And then as you move your left foot forward, move the cane over to your right foot. And I think it took me, it was 6 months before he said, yep, you're good. And the last thing he did, my last test was, he said, all right, we're going into the post office. Here's what I want you to do. And he gave me instructions on how to get to the postmaster in the post office. And it was nothing less than challenging. And then I used my white cane. So I passed that. And then I used my white cane for many, many years on the subways and commuter rails in the Boston area. When I came down to Florida in 17, I realized that I didn't know where I was. I had no clue. And if I had not had Rosie, who could follow the sidewalks, my journey to the grocery store, which when we moved here, mobility and orientation. I don't know orientation so much, but well, no, I guess more orientation. You have to learn where you are. And even at my new office in the new city hall in Boynton Beach, I had to have a mobility and orientation trainer come in and show me around the building, because I had no clue. I could get to my office and I could get out of the building, but that's all I knew. So it was really important to have Tori from the Lighthouse of the Blind to come in and give me training so that I would know where to go. And, you know, it's okay. I could find my way in, I could find my way out, but I couldn't find the emergency exit because they don't make sounds. You have to find them, and you have to, well, in this case, I had to train Rosie, emergency exit, and tap the door, emergency exit, so that if I needed to get out, I could say emergency exit, because you in an emergency you can't use the elevator. So orientation and mobility training, extremely important. And I would suggest that people, if they're rusty, get a refresher.
Okay. And my last question for you is that with the O&M instruction that you received and your use of the white cane, and I now know you use a guide dog, do you feel that your experience with using the cane and the O&M instructor really helped you when you first got your guide dog?
Oh, absolutely. Because I had used my white cane for so many years, and okay, this is going to sound really kind of silly. I was a Boy Scout. So they taught me how to listen and feel where the sun is based on the time of day and Siri will tell me that at any point. But yeah, using a white cane absolutely helped me to understand orientation and where I was and where I needed to be. Because if you put a blind person in the middle of a grass field, unless they know to what to listen for example, traffic. I live off of Okeechobee, so I can listen for traffic, and I understand based on the time of day where the sun should be feeling on my body. And those were things that I was taught when I did O&M. And if you don't get those things, you can get seriously lost because, I mean, you go into a big green field of grass and you're blind, you got no clue unless you pay attention to some of the things you were taught in orientation and mobility.
Okay. And with that, do you have any closing comments?
I just think that for me, just I hope people get out of this that, you know, texting and walking doesn't work because you can really disable a person who's using a white cane. And I appreciate everyone who doesn't touch my dog. It's kind of funny. People will walk up and say, "Oh, how pretty." And I'll say, "Oh, thank you. Oh, you met my dog."
Yeah. Yeah, myself, I was a cane traveler. I had several guide dogs. In between that, I went back to a cane. I had a guide dog, and now I'm back to my cane. So we go in and out of these times. And again, you know, and I feel it's a personal preference on if you like to be a cane user or a guide dog user.
Yeah,
Do you agree
it's
with that?
absolutely personal preference. I know that in our group of the Palm Beach guide dog handlers, or the guide dog handlers of the Palm Beaches, we have a couple cane users, and we have a couple people who recently retired a dog, and we have a couple dogs that are about to retire. But most people who get a guide dog stick with a guide dog, and there's other people. Well, when I asked my wife, "Can I get a guide dog?" because I had been hit by an SUV while walking down the street, actually walking down the sidewalk using my white cane, and somebody was, I don't know, distracted and hit me with a Ford Explorer. And I became very inclusive. I just wanted to sit in the house, and my company said, "Yeah, you can work from home." And I didn't leave without my wife. I didn't leave to go anywhere. So, although my white cane gave me a lot and a long time uh, of independence, with my white cane, I've been to 42 states and well over 100 national and state parks. So it served me very well. And now I have Rosie, who's now snoring behind me. And it'll be a tough choice to get a second guide dog because she'll retire and my wife will adopt her, and I'll have to decide, well, should I get another dog and make Rosie jealous because I spend more time with that one than I do with her? So yeah, it's a personal choice. I never wanted one until I got hit by that SUV. And now I can't go a day without Rosie being excited to be my guide.
Wonderful. Okay. And just really quick, if anybody would like more information about the White Cane Law, do you have any resources that you can point them to?
Yeah, they can go to Florida state law, and there's a um, search edit box, and if you key in 516 or 518, it will give you all the information that you need to find out what the law is and how it is applied to bottom line violators, because you don't make a law for the people who are obeying the law, you make it for the violators. And it will tell you the information that I gave based on and they're not long statutes, they're just a couple of paragraphs each, but it makes it very clear that a person needs to yield the right of way to a person using a guide dog or a white cane.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ted. We certainly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come speak to us today and sharing your tips and your experience. And thank you for speaking to us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, I just hope that, it helps people to understand, because that's really what I'm here to do, is advocate, educate, and navigate.
Thank you.
And that's what a white cane or a guide dog helps us to do.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me.
Play button.
All right. Bear with me for 1 second, folks. And I will stop
Title
this.
is Movies and TV.
1
Alt
second.
F4. Workshop FOC. Meeting controls. Meeting controls. Mute. Currently unmuted. Alt plus A button.
Okay. All right. I believe I stopped my screen share. And I hope the audio was okay on that. I meant to test that out in advance. I kind of played it through a few times on these clips, and it sounded good to me. I just hope it came out good on the other end. So, and that was Mr. Ted Goodenough. And I'm glad he had an opportunity to speak and share his thoughts and his experiences, how that ties in. I don't know how many are with us who are outside of our local Palm Beach County, Florida area, even outside of the state of Florida, if any. But each state rather, does have their own statutes that pertain to the White Cane Law. So those statute numbers will obviously be different for every state, and the ramifications about the fines and how many points on your license may change, just vary slightly, but relatively they're all the same. So, so with that being said, he was talking a lot about comparison of a white cane and a guide dog, and I know the focus of today's talk is on white canes. So, but that gives you a little bit of a background idea. And as I mentioned in the presentation that we just did, it's extremely important that if you are a cane user and you have never received any type of mobility instruction, you must, really should get that training with that O&M orientation mobility instructor. So at the Florida Outreach Center for the Blind, we do have a certified O&M instructor, orientation mobility. Joanne, who's one of our contracted staff, who will come and train with you either in our facility or at your home if you're in our local area. However, just about every other lighthouse and training facility throughout the state of Florida and in other states should have somebody on staff as well. So very, very important you receive that type of training. So I'd like to kind of shift gears a little bit and move on to our next clip. And this is these next few videos I'm going to play. They were formatted in the audio format. They're originally videos found on YouTube, as I mentioned. And the next one I want to play is a short PSA public service announcement that was done, I believe, a year or two ago from the National Federation for the Blind. And it gives you a good idea. It speaks a little bit about the white cane law and some of the same factors that Ted had mentioned about fines and points on your license and whatnot. So bear with me. I'll go ahead and load my screen once again, and we will get the next video up here and play that as well. So bear with me.
Workshop FO.
All right. So once again, you'll be hearing my JAWS.
Workshop FOCB. Workshop
And let's see here.
NFB. Assisting the blind. NFB of Florida PSA.
There we go. Okay. Just want to make sure I have the right file that I'm pointing to, because I got a couple up here. So we'll go ahead and play that at this time. So stand by.
Enter. Prove music. My music.
The white cane and guide dog are tools of a blind person, and they are symbols of our independence, self-determination, and ability to compete on terms of equality. The National Federation of the Blind wants to remind you that whenever a blind person is crossing a street, driveway, or any other place carrying a white cane or accompanied by a guide dog, all traffic must stop until that person has safely crossed. Violation of Florida's white cane law is a moving violation that can result in 3 points on your driver's license, fines of up to $250, and increased insurance costs. Stop for blind pedestrians. It's the law. For more information about the white cane law, blindness, or the National Federation of the Blind, you may contact us at 813-626-2789 or visit our website at www.blind411.org. The National Federation of the Blind. We're changing what it means to be blind.
Okay.
Title is Prove Music.
Okay. 1 second.
Alt F4. Workshop FO.
All right. So that's a pretty short video, just a quick PSA. It kind of reinforces what was said earlier. And yes, it is the law that traffic must come to a complete stop. And that's very important. And I just want to share something really quick before we move on to our next clip here, is that I remember due to COVID, unfortunately, for the last 2 years, we've been able to have white cane events at the Florida Outreach Center, along with the other organizations in the area. We used to all put on events, and I'm sure for those who are outside of our area, you've been involved or have heard of local events being organized by your local facilities, your local chapters of the American Council of the Blind, National Federation, your lighthouses, and other training facilities. But I do remember, and anybody who has been to a white cane event, when we had them very well organized, we would actually have the local police out there and monitoring and making sure we cross safe and watching the drivers. And despite all the law enforcement presence that we had out there, there were still so many people that actually still never stopped. They never saw us. During some of our events, we did have law enforcement officers who would actually go and chase them down and either write them tickets for their violations, which as well as they should be, or at least giving them a strict warning and explaining the law. We had literature to hand out to drivers, the whole 9 yards. So we're hoping that, depending on, of course, COVID, and we hope that our organization and others are able to get back to that hopefully next year. So I still am on a screen share, no reason to stop it because I do want to move right along to our next clip. And the next two clips I want to play are talking more about how to assist a blind person. And I am sure many of you, if not all of you, along with myself, have many, many stories on how we've been approached by sighted individuals who they wanted to help. They had their best interest, but they just had no clue as to what to do. And some of them are more realistic. Some of them are like, you almost want to shake your head and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person just did that. So I want to play just a couple short videos on the perspective of that and how to properly assist a person. And they talk about how sighted people came up to visually impaired individuals, and while they wanted to help, they just had no clue and they did some crazy outlandish things. I know I have my stories, and I am sure after hearing these next two clips, you all have your stories as well. So bear with me here.
White Cane Awareness Day.
All right, and I'm going to play this first one. I believe this is a White Cane Awareness Day event story. I believe this one might be presented by the National Federation for the Blind as well. Just to let you all know, we're not leaning towards one organization or the other. Just that's where I found the majority of these clips that were available. So with that being said, here's our next clip on how to help or how to assist a blind and visually impaired individual.
Enter. Prove music.
The National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
When I'm walking, I use my cane to feel the uneven surfaces in the sidewalk.
My cane allows me to find obstacles like benches or trash cans, and it also helps me find the truncated domes that tell me that I'm nearing the edge of the platform.
A lot of what I'm getting from my cane is info like drop-offs, texture changes in the sidewalk, because that can let me know if I'm heading a parking lot or a driveway. You don't need to grab me. You don't need to grab my cane. You don't need to shout at me from across the street. You don't need to stop your daily life. Just do your thing and I'll move around you.
I'm Mark Riccobono, president of the National Federation of the Blind. We believe so strongly that every blind person should have access to independence and mobility, that we give the tools of independence to any blind person who needs them. During the past 10 years, we've shared over 64,000 free white canes with blind people around the country. Please help us continue this program by visiting www.nfb.org/donate2018. Thank you.
For more information about the National Federation of the Blind, visit www.nfb.org or call 410-659-9314.
F2. Alt F4. Workshop FOs.
All right. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about the free white cane program. So if you wanted more information on that white cane program, that is the information that you would need about
Ted
that.
NFB of Florida, assisting the blind left parent audio.
Here we go. This next video I want to play, this is the one I was really talking about that pertained to assisting a blind individual. And this video is actually audio described as I mentioned. So it will describe to you the scene changes. So even though it's audio only, you'll have a really good idea of how how this was all set up.
Enter. Prove music. Nothing to.
We see a graduate from the Utah School for the Blind. She speaks from a hallway on the Ogden campus.
A lot of times people are afraid to help blind people because they're not exactly sure how to help. It's just best to not assume and just always ask questions.
Video shows a man walking along a sidewalk with his white cane.
The more that you're around a blind person, everyone has different levels of independence. And so the more you're around them, the more you're going to recognize, like, oh, this person tends to need help with this, or they don't need help with this. I do sighted guide sometimes. I typically don't need it. I can just follow someone. I just prefer when someone just says, hey, do you want to do sighted guide? Or can you follow me? You know, I can't speak for every blind person on, you know, do I prefer sighted guide or do I not? Or, you know, and so that's why I think the big thing is asking questions, is because everyone has a different personality and everyone has different levels of independence. And so, yeah, it just goes back to that. Just, you have to figure out, you have to ask them. Because some people do prefer to do things on their own, and some people would prefer sighted guide.
Two women walk together. One holds her white cane. The other woman serves as a sighted guide and holds her arm.
It's never appropriate to grab someone's cane unless you ask them first. That's the blind person's way of getting around. That's how they get around safely. And so it's never okay to grab their cane if you think that you're going to grab their cane to lead them, because it's, you know, sometimes people think it's more appropriate to lead them by their cane rather than touching them. It's just as bad. And so that's why I put the responsibility of asking questions on sighted people. If they want to help, that's kind of their responsibility to ask questions, but it's the blind person has a responsibility as well to tell them yes or no, or tell them what they need.
Okay. And that is basically that video. So give me 1 second
Alt
here.
F4. Workshop FOC.
1 second
Meeting
here.
controls. Mute. Currently unmuted. Alt.
All right, and I stopped my screen share. And that gives you a little bit of an idea, like I said, on how to assist a blind person. You know, you don't go up to them and start shouting at them, can I help you? Remember, we're visually impaired. We're blind. Even though our eyes may not work, for the most part, our ears work perfectly fine. And like I said, I am sure most of us, if not all of us, can share an experience with that. You know, talking about the white cane, not only are there different types of white canes, and Ted kind of talked a little bit about that. He uses a foldable or collapsible cane, and that's what I currently use, and that's what I prefer. And of course, there's the straight canes, the rigid canes, which is what the National Federation for the Blind gives out. And they both have their different feels, and it really comes down to preference. There's telescoping canes that kind of, instead of breaking down, they kind of slide in and slide out, which is kind of nice. But what's more important is getting fitted for a white cane. You know, it's really, really important, I feel, and being a cane user for many years, I feel that it's really important to have the proper cane height, not necessarily the type, because I think that comes down to feel and touch and preference, but it's extremely important, I believe, in being fitted for a white cane properly, and that should go by your height. I have seen and have heard, been told by many people that the white canes, some people have white canes that will take, say, a 5'7" person, so 5'7", even 5'8" individual. I have heard that some people have canes that are way above them, above their head even. And while some people have the philosophy that that is better, that, in my personal opinion, and this is just myself speaking, I don't feel that's proper as well. Likewise, Just likewise, I have heard of people who have canes that are extremely short and they're bending over as they walk. Well, forget about it being bad for your posture and your stability. You know, that's not very effective at all. What I've always been told, and the type of canes that are, and the height of the canes I've always had, they've either been right at or just a hair above. What I mean by hair, like an inch or two, just above the shoulder blade, right above my shoulder. So, and to me, that gives me the comfort level that I need and the stability that I need as well. And Ted also mentioned about cane tips. So he mentioned the type of tip that he has on his cane. And that can go into a whole other subject. I do have a video that I was debating on playing about white cane tips, and I don't think I'm really going to play it, only because it gets really specific, and I don't know if it's really relevant to today's discussion, because the presentation, while it's very involved, very detailed, and very good actually, and you can find it on YouTube, by the way, if you want to hear it yourself, which I do invite you to if you so choose to. There are so many different types of tips out there. And again, I believe it comes down to personal preference. There's actually, there is, you know, the pencil tip, there's the roller bowl tip, and then there's the mushroom tip. And there might be some others as well. I just kind of scanned through that video really quick that I was debating on playing. And it, boy, there was stuff I didn't even know. So if anybody would like to email me, I can either send them the link, or you can just go on YouTube and type in, I think you can search for cane tips or white cane tips, something like that, and you should find it. The gentleman who actually does it, I believe he's visually impaired, and he actually has a whole series of videos. So he has a channel. So for those who aren't familiar with YouTube, just really quick, you go to a video on YouTube, and if they have several videos, they call that a channel. You could subscribe and watch all the videos from that individual. So he says he talks a lot about assistive technology and mobility and the white cane. And it's pretty interesting. I haven't even had a chance to check out his other videos as well. So, you know, it's very important to get the type of tip that you're most comfortable with. And of course, the type of tip that will fit and be best for your type of white cane. So, let's see here. Just kind of. Okay. So with that being said, I'd like to go ahead and open the floor for questions and answers at this point. So we're going to go over how we're going to do that. We're going to use the method of raising hands on Zoom. So we'll go over those, and I will have Manis, our wonderful host, will be recognizing you in just a minute. So I will mention the rules and how we raise our hand via different methods on Zoom. So if you are calling in via the telephone, so if you're a telephone user, you used our 312626 number and enter the access code, that means you're a telephone user. So right now you are muted. So in order to raise your hand, you will do *9, and that will notify Manis that you would like to speak. And when he calls your name, if you're a telephone user, you will do *6 to unmute yourself. So *9 to raise your hand, wait to be recognized, and then *6 to unmute yourself. If you are on a PC, if you're on a computer, a Windows computer, you are going to do Alt-Y. Alt-Y will raise your hand and wait for to be recognized. And when you do, to unmute yourself, it is Alt A. A is an apple. So Alt Y to raise your hand, Alt A to unmute yourself once you're being recognized. If you are on an iPhone or an iPad, down on the bottom right corner, there is a more button. And in there, there is the raise your hand command. If you're a voiceover user, you go to the bottom right, find more, double tap, and then swipe right to, or flick right until you hear raise hand. And then once you are recognized, you will be back on the main screen of Zoom on your app, on your phone. And if you swipe right, I believe it's somewhere on either on the left or towards the middle of the screen. If you swipe or flick, you'll hear, right now you're muted. It will say unmute, and you double tap on that. And if you're a Mac user, I believe it's Command Shift Y and then Command A or Command Shift A to unmute once you're recognized. So with that being said, Manus, do we have any raised hands at this time?
Okay, no, not at this time.
Not at this time. All right. Manus, do you, just by chance, while we have you unmuted, do you have anything that you would like to add to today's presentation?
Actually, I was very surprised when Ted was doing his presentation. He mentioned how he lost a cane, and that was a little strange that you would kick a blind person's cane, of course, by accident. I do think it was by accident because the person was texting. And then you just walked away. Just say sorry, and then you kept going. So how do you expect the person to get around after you do something like that? So that was very surprising to me, that something like that happened. And the second thing I wanted to mention is that that university student, I believe it was Utah, who mentioned that how to lead a blind person who has a cane. The tendency would be, number one, to grab the person and start leading the person, or number two, you would lead the person by their cane. So, I mean, that's a little bit unusual, but it does happen. And as I said yesterday, sometimes people do mean well, but they just don't know how. So it's up to the blind person to educate the guide. So I do appreciate the help. We do need the help, but it's up to the blind person to explain to the person offering the help how to guide them.
Well, exactly. And I want to go back to your first comment about the guy who just kicked his cane and it rolled down the ravine and he was stuck without his cane. He said that the person just wasn't clearly paying attention. And some people are just so, I'm going to use the word ignorant, and distracted. I guess maybe distracted might be better. So as he said, this person was distracted. They were texting or they were doing something else and they just weren't paying attention clearly. And not even to stop and offer assistance. That's what really got me. That just really is what got me when I heard that. I was like, really? The guy just kept on walking. He didn't even stop and say, oops, wait, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Hello, let me assist you. Let me help you. And he just kept on going, It's just really, fortunately, I don't think that happens too often, thank goodness. However, it does happen. And, he did mention, or I did hear from somewhere else, that because, and like he shared the other story about how someone jumped on his cane or jumped over his cane and broke it inadvertently. So they always carry a spare with them. So he mentioned to me, I don't know if he mentioned in the presentation, I don't think so, how, I think he mentioned it afterwards, we were talking, and he had mentioned how the person you know, while they have their primary cane, they always have a backup just in case something like that even happens. So that's something else to keep in mind as well. As far as how to assist a blind person, you know, I mean, I don't know how many people come up and they grab your elbow, like they're going to, like, you're going to sight a guide them and they're trying to guide you. It's like, whoa, no, this isn't going to work type of thing, you know. And the way that I have always been told is, you know, you always ask, can I grab your elbow? Now, there's a slight variation, and while I personally don't agree with it, I guess it works for some people, although I don't believe this is the proper way. Some people are like, can I grab your shoulder? And I guess at the end of the day, whatever works, but I don't believe that's the proper technique either. So you always offer, can I grab your elbow? So now the only other problem with that is if a person is not used to properly guiding somebody via sighted guide, remember you're grabbing your elbow, so now they're double wide because they're walking, and as well as you walking beside them. And if they come to something narrow, while they might go right through, you may go right into it. And I've had that happen. So obviously the best practice for that, if someone's familiar, is someone's sighted guide. When they come to something narrow, they always take their elbow that you're holding on to and they put it behind their back. And that should be the signal to the blind person to say, oh, let me go behind that, because obviously we're coming up to something narrow. So neither one of you slam into whatever it is. You both go right through. So,
well, Jason,
yeah.
those techniques, I think we need to teach blind people those techniques as well. It's not the guide. It's not only the sighted guide who need to learn these things, but as blind individuals, as visually impaired individuals, we need to know these things so that we can share them. I learned the putting your elbow behind you from a source, but not too many blind people know that technique. So it's something that we need to teach blind individuals about things like that, and so that they can pass it along to their sighted guide.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with you. You know, we shouldn't be expecting sighted people who have never dealt with blind people who just want to help. Even if they say, oh, I know they're supposed to grab my elbow, but I have no idea what to do next. But no, it's totally up to us as blind and visually impaired individuals that we have to be just as trained, if not more trained, than sighted individuals. Because we have to be the ones to say, okay, I'm going to grab your elbow, but when you come to something narrow, you know, put your elbow behind your back so I know I have to go behind you. So now I'm married to my wife who is fully sighted, and she has known me for way too long. And we've been
careful.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything. No, we've been married for 17 years, but we've been living together for 20, and she's known me for even longer than that. So she's fully aware of when we're going sighted guide, that she knows she'll either say, get behind me, or she'll take her elbow and put it behind me. But you know what? She is a rare few individuals that actually are aware. So, you know, before she met me, she never dealt with anybody who was visually impaired and blind. So I had to tell her how we're going to do this. And from there, it was just set as a precedent. So don't ever assume, guys, that the person who's helping you, even if you're doing sighted guide, okay, don't ever assume they know what they're doing. You have to speak up just as much. I mean, we've had other crazy stories happen to us where they'll push us from behind. They're in back of us and they're pushing us. They're poking us along like cattle. That's not going to work. No. And as the one video said, grabbing the cane, no, that's not going to work. coming up and shouting at us, no, that's definitely not going to work as well. So yeah, no, it's our job to educate and let people know how to best assist us. Do you have any other comments, Manus?
Actually, I do have a comment about something that Ted mentioned about the laws in Florida. If you see a blind person with a cane about to cross the street, and of course the blind person has the right of way, I understand that part. But he mentioned even if the blind person is not at an intersection, like in the middle of like way in the middle of a street, not even an intersection, and the driver still needs to stop and let the blind person cross. But I don't know why a blind person would want to cross a street in the middle, not at an intersection. To me, that's not really safe at all. I don't know if you catch that when you were saying it.
Yeah, actually I did. And that's something that I want to just comment on really quick. You know, I was always told through the multiple mobility instructors that I had, while they all might have their slightly different styles and thoughts and ideas, one thing that was definitely consistent was, unless you absolutely have to, and there shouldn't even be a reason then, you should never cross unless it's at a full intersection with the light. Right. I know where I live. Oh my gosh, I live, you know, on a little quiet street here, but at the end of that is the main road, Military Trail. And for those who are not from around here, for the purpose of us locals, it's a major road. It's, you know, 4-6 lane major road. And I live in between 2 major intersections. So for me to cross, if I want to get to the other side, I have to either walk about a half a mile to the north, or and it's an even longer stretch even south, about 3/4 of a mile. So I would, if I wanted to cross that street, I would never think about crossing that road or any other street for that matter, a major road like that, unless it was at an intersection. Because there's just so much traffic, and since it's such a long stretch from one light to the other, and think about that, there's nothing slowing those cars down. I don't even know, I wouldn't even have enough nerve, I don't think. And that is just a great way, you know, and then just because you're blind and you have a white cane, don't think, oh, well, I'm not going to walk up to either one of those lights. I want to get across right here. Don't think about even stepping out, even when you detect the road being quiet, because that's such a long stretch of road between lights for me that these cars wouldn't have time to even stop. I just would never do it. I would never do it. I remember crossing at one street where the light, I was at a light and the light was broken. Well, that presented its own challenge. So one other thing, guys, speaking of crossing streets with lights, one thing I was always told, and just came to mind, I'm glad we're talking about this, that when you approach an intersection, okay, and don't be afraid that if you have to wait through a couple of light cycles to really judge that traffic. You know, because some light cycles are long, some are short, and some are in between. So, you know, we always want to know we have enough time to safely cross that street. So if you approach an intersection that you're not familiar with, please take an extra few minutes and pay attention to those traffic and those light signals and judge on how long they go through. If you have to wait through a couple light cycles, take that extra few minutes and wait through those light cycles. It's not going to add too much more time to your day, believe me. So anyway,
the car will always win.
Yes, the car will always win, you know. So do we have any questions yet?
No, we do not have any questions.
Okay.
No
all right.
raised hands.
No raised hands. All right. Do you have any other comments or questions you would like to ask?
No.
Okay.
No. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, you guys are being awfully quiet today. We hope that you found this information enjoyable and informationable. So with that being said, and I don't believe we had any drop-offs either. Nobody hung up, so which was great. Everybody stuck around, and we certainly appreciate you all taking time out of your day to join us. So, but before we get to our drawing, and I know that's what a lot of you are all anticipating, we have just a couple of announcements we'd like to make before we do our drawing. First of all, we'd like to tell you that we do have our next workshop already lined up, and that will be held on November 18th. November 18th, it is the third Thursday. We are going to try and go back to holding our workshops consistently on the third Thursday of each month when possible. And next month's workshop will be on Newsline from the National Federation for the Blind. Mr. Russ Davis, he is the NFB Florida coordinator for Newsline. And for those who are not familiar, Newsline is a service that allows you to read newspapers, both local and national, magazines of a large variety, TV listings, grocery ads, and other such information. You can access that on your telephone, through your computer, both the Windows and Mac, and through an app that's available for your iOS device, whether it be iPhone or iPad, or your Android device as well. So feel free to join us, and that will be Thursday, the 18th in the afternoon. We will send out more information regarding that as well. Also, to let everybody know, we do have a Florida Outreach Center for the Blind mailing list where we do post announcements about our upcoming workshops and other such events. For example, we'll have our book club discussion. I'll get to that in a second. We post about that. We post articles that we find of interest that others may want to read about other organizations from Hadley, American Printing House, things of that nature. So if you'd like to join our mailing list, and if you're not a member, we certainly want you to join. It is absolutely completely free of charge. We'd love for you to join. So if you'd like to join, please send a message, a blank email to Florida Outreach Center. That's all one word, Florida Outreach Center, then the plus sign, then the word subscribe, SUBSCRIBE, at groups, GROUPS.io. That's I as in India and O as in Oscar. So it's Florida Outreach Center plus subscribe at groups.io. And what will happen, you just put anything in the subject line. It doesn't really matter because otherwise your email program will tell you there's a blank subject. Don't put anything in the body of the email, just send it as a blank email. Send it, and within a minute, you'll get an automated response back confirming that you like to do this. You just open up that email and just immediately reply to it. Don't put anything else in the subject, nothing in the body. Just do a reply. Most email programs are Control-R with your keyboard and other methods as well. And just send that. And then I will get a notice because I am one of the moderators who approves people. I will get an email saying that so-and-so would like to join. And as soon as I see that, which is usually pretty quick because I check my email several times a day, I will see that and automatically approve you, and you will be on our mailing list. So we'd love to have every single one of you join us on our mailing list. And one of the announcements, and I already mentioned, was our book discussion group that we hold once a month over Zoom. In fact, it is the same exact same Zoom information that you are using for this meeting as well. So, and that will actually be held today, the 3rd, and that is consistent. It is on the 4th Thursday of the month, and that's going to be held at 3:00 p.m. Eastern time, if anybody's calling from another time zone. And we have a book that was announced the last month, and that's today's book is Hello Sunshine by Laura Dave. And even if you haven't read the book, come join us, say hi and feel free to jump into the discussion. So it's open to anybody, of course, free of charge. So we have events like that as well. Manis, would you like to tell everybody out there a little bit, just very quickly, about our center and who we are and what we offer?
The Florida Outreach Center for the Blind, of course, is a training facility for individuals who are blind or visually impaired. We offer a variety of services, among which we have iPhone training, computer training, we have independent living skills, we have a peer support group, we have a craft class, we have a book club, so on and so forth. So we have several types of activities, and but we do focus a lot on the training, because training is extremely important so that blind and individually impaired people can remain independent. But also next to the training is the support that we offer, because we understand that blindness can take an emotional toll on people. So we do need that level of support from each other, so that we can remain sane. Let's just put it like that, because it can really take a toll on the person's psyche. So join our support group, join our craft class, join our training classes, and you will not be disappointed. In fact, we just added a brand new support group that's gonna meet every Tuesday. So we started that one last Tuesday. It was very successful. So we do invite you to come and join us at this brand new support group. So stop by the center. Our address is 2315 South Congress Avenue in Palm Springs or West Palm Beach. So do stop by, and so that we can meet you in person.
Right. And if you want to contact the Florida Outreach Center for more information about any of our programs or services that we offer, our phone number is area code 561-642-0005. And the support group that was mentioned it's brand new. It's right now just being held in person. However, we might, depending on how it goes, we might be able to offer it as a hybrid, meaning in person and possibly on Zoom, but we'll have to see how that goes. We just literally started that this past Tuesday, so we'll have to kind of gauge that and see how that goes. We're trying to have more in-person events, like our workshops, for example. We were talking about possibly at the first beginning of the year, having our workshops as a hybrid, meaning we will not stop Zoom, but start to offer them in person as well. So, but stay tuned for all those details as that all involves and whatnot. And I want to thank Carolyn Lapp, our executive director, and the Florida Outreach Center for the Blind for allowing us to have this presentation today. Like I said, we hope you found it extremely enjoyable and valuable and educational as well. So with that all being said, now we get to the good part, our drawing. So Mr. Manis will be drawing one lucky winner today, and that winner will win a $25 gift card. And Manis, take it away.
All right.
All right.
Drum roll, please.
Roll.
All right. If the last 4 digits of your phone is 0025, congratulations. You just won $25 of gift certificate. If your cell phone,
0025.
if your telephone ends with 0025, whoever that is, congratulations.
Okay, so whoever, that's a telephone user, so that's a telephone user. So whoever's phone number ends in 0025, if you could unmute yourself and identify yourself. Again, if you're a telephone user, *6, sorry, forgot to mention that. Oops, *6. *6 will unmute yourself. So if you can identify yourself by hitting *6 and letting us know who you are. Once again, phone number ending in, is it 26?
0025.
Oh, 0025, excuse me, 0025. 0025. What's the first 3 numbers, Manus?
346.
Oh, okay. We know who that is.
Oh, okay.
That's Maria Norris.
Hello.
Maria.
Hello.
Ooh,
Oh,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
tried many times.
Oh, there you go. Oh, we almost had to pass you up.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
Thank you
congratulations.
so much. Thank you. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
so, all
And
right.
you know that I am very proud of my cane. I always had the training when I start my training, and I just use cane. I never think in the tie dog. I love my cane, and I have a lot of experience with the cane. That is great to have a cane.
All right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
awesome. All right. And we do have your information, so we will get you your gift card. We will get in
Oh,
touch with
thank
you.
you so
Yes,
much.
we have all your information, so we know who this is. So we will get you your gift card as soon as we possibly can. So we'll probably take care of it.
Thank you.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jason. Thank you,
All
Manny.
right. Okay. And that's Maria Norris, folks. So anyway, with that, we'll go ahead and close our meeting for today. Once again, thank you to everybody for coming out and joining us today. And stay tuned for next month's workshop on NFB Newsline with Mr. Russ Davis. Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you'd like to join us for our book club, come back at 3 o'clock with the same Zoom information. We would be glad and love to have you as well. So thank you.